Thank you. All right, let's open the meeting with the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wish it wouldn't do that. All right, welcome to the September 7th meeting, agenda meeting of the town board. And I'll open the meeting with opportunity for privilege of the floor.
Do you want to let the people in on Zoom? Or do you want me to let them in?
Absolutely. Thanks, Catherine. That was critical. Great. Okay, start again here. So welcome everybody to the September 7th Caroline Town Board agenda meeting. And I will open the meeting with opportunity for privilege of the floor. And I have made copies of the expectations and for privilege of the floor, which I assume everybody has read, and by signing this sheet agreed to. So I will start with the first signee, and that is RC Quick.
Good evening. I'm not sure how much of what I want to say can be accomplished in 180 seconds, but I will try to be relatively quick. It would be a great help to us at agenda meetings and business meetings if the board had a microphone to use. Some of us can't hear you when you're talking. So is that a possibility?
We will project.
You will project. Thank you. There are new signs at town officials' homes and a few other places. These signs say support responsible zoning. Is this a joke? How can zoning be responsible? Can discrimination be responsible? How about racism? I may be mistaken, but it seems to me that when a person becomes a town official, that person is taking on a responsibility to represent the citizenry of the town and will demonstrate that by being bipartisan. A support responsible zoning sign at Tim Murray's house is not a demonstration of bipartisanship. Is it illegal? No. Is it ethical? I don't think so, at least not in the way I understand ethics. I am gifting this no zoning sign to you, Tim, to put next to your support responsible zoning sign. I'm going to leave it here so you can pick it up at your leisure and do with it what you will, but I would hope that you see fit to let all the people who travel 79 see that you understand both sides. Thank you. Mark, I've been told by reliable sources that in the past, residents of our town have applied for opportunities within the town, committee work, task forces, etc., and never heard back, and the position got filled with people who fit into your elite enclave. I guess you already support responsible discrimination. After spending years in mid-level positions in the public and private sector, I started doing a bit of consulting. If I were called into an organization to consult, the very first place I look is at the management. It was often the last place I looked. Is management truly involved? Don't look so quizzical, Mark. It was often the last place I looked. Is management truly involved, or is it my way or the highway? Is the work environment? No podium. Hostile? Is there a lack of cohesiveness within the organization? Does the organization really know what it is and what it is supposed to do? Is management regressing to the familiar? What is our situation here in Caroline? Is it time for a change? Thank you.
Thank you, RC. I do want to say that all people who applied for the task force were contacted and
It's other
interviewed. So,
positions.
It's
sorry,
your turn to talk.
sorry.
It's his-
I just need to reply to your comment. So thank you. Bruce Murray,
How do you work? I don't understand you, Mark.
you're out of order. So Bruce Murray, you're next.
Yeah, I read that you're gonna put a resolution forward to spend $1,000 of our tax money towards the partnership municipality to study the trail. And once again, I believe the town board's got the cart before the horse. If you don't have an agreement with NICEAG already as to whether you can use the property or how to use the property, why would you spend any of our money? And the other thing is, I would want to look at what the agreement is with the gas and electric. Because if we put forth taxpayers' dollars to build that trail and to clear that trail all the way as far as we're ever going to do it, does NICEAG still have the ability to use that trail to put up anything they want on that trail and not spend the time to clear it or build over those great big huge holes and all that other stuff? I think that really needs to be addressed before any of our tax dollars are put into this. And the other thing is, I don't feel that the town board is actually putting our taxpayers who are paying tax dollars on that property at this point in time where it should be, which would be upfront. They're the people that are going to be suffering from this. We have 2 or 3 people who have already sold out, who I've talked to, and said that they don't want to be there. That's why they sold their property when the trail goes through. They said their deeds read that when the railroad quit, that land was granted and went back to the individual owners of the property. So whether NICEAG really for a couple $100 bought that leeway or not needs to be really addressed by our town lawyer. The other thing is, like I said, you've got farmers. You were talking about you want to support farmers, and we have a local fruit farmer who tells me he's digging his trees up and moving to Canada because of this. So you're displacing people who have already been paying taxes in our town for a long time when you really don't even know if this is going to work. So I would ask that you look at this before you spend $1,000. It's only going to go, the study's only going to be to Banksville, correct? Which is the beginning of our property or town of Caroline's property. So I don't see if they're doing a feasibility study, why we would have to have anything to do with that. Maybe from there on, yes, but not before that. So I would ask everybody on our town board, before they spend $1,000 of our taxpayers' money towards this grant or towards this feasibility study, that they make sure that the agreement with NICEAG is already okayed and the agreement is something that you can agree upon. Because you have no idea what they're going to come up with until they come up with it. So I would want to see that before I said I'm going to spend a penny on the deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I will address some of your concerns. As you see in the resolution, it is the grant and expenditure money is contingent upon the agreement with NICEAG. We've clarified with our town attorney at great pains that legal ownership is not in question. NICEAG owns the property and is a willing and happy partner. And then we're doing this in partnership. The town of Caroline is doing this in partnership with 3 other towns, Danby, Ithaca, and Dryden. So.
But isn't it only coming to the town of Caroline, the beginning of the town?
So, I mean,
Can't help them.
that's, yeah. So we will be discussing it later. It'll be the first item of business and I'll provide more information there. So,
Great.
but thanks.
Megan Burke has her hand.
Okay. Burke, okay. I'll
I think
go
I'm
to
unmuted.
audience now, so
Can
Go
you hear
ahead.
me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Mark, I was just wondering if you'd like to comment on what I shared in the last meeting and explain why a predetermined conclusion stating that adopting zoning in Caroline is high priority appeared in a documented plan tied to a county grant from FEMA. And also, why did you block me from screen sharing that in the last meeting? It's already posted. Not sure what that achieved.
I'm happy to respond to that, Megan. First of all, so I said that you could share the document with the town board. The privilege
It's
of the-
actually the public
No,
I'd like to
sorry.
share it with, right?
Excuse me, that's not the purpose of privilege of the floor. It's to share with the town board. And the mention of zoning in the county plan was included by the county as a way to implement stream protections in their stream protection planning with buffers. So that's a simple answer to your question. So thank you. Okay, Connie O'Brien, you're next.
Thank you. So I don't have too much to say this evening. I'm really here to voice my support regarding the town of Caroline joining our neighboring towns to advance the extension of the South Hill Recway to Banks Road. And I know it's been many years and lots of people have been working on this. But over the past few years, I've witnessed other towns in our area construct new pedestrian trails, often getting grant money for this. And I certainly hope that in the near future, the town of Caroline will join their ranks. It would be such a positive benefit to the residents of our town, as well as our neighboring towns, to have a safe means of traveling and recreation. I mean, I can tell you many people have been hit on Coddington Road on their bikes. You know, they would just love a safe way to get to Brookendale, be a benefit for our town. And lastly, I would like to turn in this long overdue petition of signatures that I gathered a few years ago, but because of COVID, I never turned them in. And I want to make sure everybody's voices here are heard. So would that go?
Yeah,
This
you
way?
can just turn it here, Ken. Thank you.
Thank
Connie.
you. I put a petition and support.
Yes.
In support of the, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Connie. And Pete White.
Sure what I was gonna say, but I signed up anyway, that I would come up with something there to say. I agree with what Bruce said about the trail business. I would just throw out two additional caveats. Several years ago, I looked at language that was NICEAG's proposed language, contract language with the town of Caroline, and I just about fell on the floor. I'm sure the guy crows it over it and has made many, many changes. I mean, it was, even if I were a trail supporter, I would be scared to death to be a party to a contract that so favored one side. I guess that's just how it works, but I'm sure that our lawyers looking at that isn't gonna do the town any disservice there. And the other thing is, you know, it's saying that it has been settled as to who owns the land under that right of way there. I did some research a long time ago and it looked to me like NICEAG owned it fee simple, but I also understand that back in those days, we didn't have the record keeping and we could have adjoining deeds that contradicted each other. That doesn't happen so much today. And so I don't think it's necessarily as open and shut that you track back through the NICEAG path back down through and say, yeah, they own it. You can track down through a neighboring path and say, yeah, we own it. And at the end of the day, that's why they pay judges. So that's it on the trail. On the business of the signs, the responsible zoning signs, I think that's kind of an oxymoron, but okay. I'm kind of glad to see those signs actually, folks. And people look at me funny, and the reason is because it kind of brings it out in the open. When we had only our signs, we didn't have any way to measure the other side because there was nothing to measure. Now I've seen 3 signs in the township, one in front of Fraser's house, one in front of Tim's house, And I get one in front of Ellen Harrison's house. I believe those are the three. Well, okay, so there's some more, but I mean, it'll get the measurement going. I mean, regardless of the language on the sign, it's a pro-zoning sign, okay. I think it's a little unseemly to have it in front of a town board member's house. Because presumably the town board will be doing due deliberation on that very topic. So to state an opinion, the exception to that would be if an election were coming up, then I would want to see the candidates state their viewpoints. But for sitting legislative and deliberative officials, I think perhaps a little more standoffishness would be in order. So that's my opinion on that. And I think I've pretty much said all I can think of. Sorry, I can't go on forever and ever.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoyt. I will just respond that our town attorney did do careful research, including title work on the NYSEG property, and was very conclusive, so. All right. With that, I will close privilege of the floor and move on to the agenda meeting. And the first, I will offer a resolution authorizing the supervisor to provide a letter of support for an application to Tompkins County Tourism Capital Grant Program for a preliminary design and construction cost estimate for extension of the South Hill Recreation Way Trail from Burns to Banks Road. And and I'll read the resolution. Resolve, the Caroline Town Board hereby authorizes a letter from the supervisor to support a collaborative grant application by the towns of Ithaca, Dryden, Danby, and Caroline to the Tompkins County Tourism Capital Grant Program for a design and cost study estimate for extension of the South Hill Recreation Way Trail from Burns to Banks Road. And further be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board agrees to contribute $1,000 towards a 5% total cost share by the partner municipalities. And further be it resolved, this grant is contingent upon the completion of an agreement with NYSEG for use of their property as a recreational trail. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Catherine, and discussion. Or questions from the board? I will clarify that this study is for the segment that I mentioned from Burns to Banks Road. But that is not the entirety of the NYSEG property for which we're seeking a recreational trail easement. So this would be a first step. And as I said, the reason for doing this now was that the grant is due this month, and we need to provide letters to support the grant. We didn't want to miss out on this funding opportunity. And so we moved ahead with this. Of course, ideally, I would have wanted to have the easement agreement in place. So, but as I said, the resolution states that the grant is contingent upon obtaining the agreement. So I have been working on that with the other supervisors. So
who is writing the grant?
the grant is being written by Mike Smith, planner for the town of Ithaca. And yeah, so he's the main person doing that. So Bruce, do you have a question?
Yeah, could you change the wording on that to an agreeable?
I don't want to change it because I'm not going to sign an agreement that's not agreeable. So I don't think that's necessary.
Mark, I'm just going to say that I think that this is a great example of intermunicipal cooperation. And I think we're really fortunate that the other towns are willing to partner with us in this way and lobby together with the opportunity of raising grant money that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So I'm very supportive of this.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
I agree with that as well. I mean, the only other thing I will say, because I hear that there's some concern about it, it's just if it's helpful to frame it in a very low drama way. I mean, I don't see this as a very controversial situation at all. We're not even talking about yes, no to the trail project at all. All of this is to say, yes, we as a town want to help our neighbors in their efforts, and just to remember that this section, as Mark already said, the particular section in question isn't even in our town. And so this is just an example of being neighborly and, contributing to something that is a, public, intermunicipal kind of public good. The other thing I would say to any concern about ownership of the land is just to remind everyone that all of the documentation is public and available on the town website. If anyone wants to look at that, I would actually really recommend that people look at that, especially when there's concern about taxpayer dollars, because many taxpayer dollars honestly were spent getting that information. And so we need to be clear that we have done that work. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Other comments, Kate?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm really glad the towns are working together on this, and I appreciate the petition that got put in finally. I'd also like to point people, especially Pete, who asked the Trails Committee some years ago to answer 10 questions that were answered. Over 300 pages were written. So questions you had about the trail, you can actually look at the answers to those.
Thank you.
And
Those are on the website.
those are on the website too, yeah. And so I'm really excited about this. I know it's not coming onto, coming up to Banks Road, which you were saying comes right up to Caroline, but it helps a lot of people in the hamlet being in Brooksondale able to get to Ithaca on bikes and walking without going on to 79. So I support this.
Great. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Everybody ready? So, okay, I will call for a vote then. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. And I will open the meeting for committee reports.
I guess I'll just say that the zoning commission met on Tuesday. Its next meeting is, I'm just looking at my calendar. The
13th?
13th.
Yeah.
And then it's preliminarily scheduled another one for the 20th, but I think that's open to discussion pending various travel schedules.
Great, okay, thank you, Tim.
The Tompkins County Transportation Council is progressing with the Safe Streets for All grant. NICEDOT is going to be putting $50,000 towards that in-kind payment that we need to come up with, which decreases our payment by half, which is good. And the town of, the village of Dryden has also joined in, and the town of Newfield. So we've got more municipalities joining in, making it more affordable for the town. So it's proceeding. They'll be putting the grant in next week. And then also the Joint Youth Commission is meeting and coming up with their budget. And I'll have that maybe by next week. The amount of money that I believe is a 3.6% increase, and I'll have the exact number next week. Okay. I haven't gotten the final version from them. So.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? No, okay. Great. Well, that does it for committee reports. I want to add something to the agenda that I should have added earlier. So Bob is, it's near the 1-year anniversary of the loader purchase. And so Bob is seeking authorization to renew that for the next year. Jesse sent an email with some of the numbers in it. So, so again, this will basically trade in the loader that's a year old, and then we get a new loader. And so that's the quote unquote loader program. The uptick, let's see, so the loader was 172,000 when we bought it last year, and this one would be, the new one would be $18,270 more, which is an 11.26% increase. And so, yeah, so I guess I'll just offer that as a resolution to authorize that and then open it for discussion. So if I have a second on that,
I'll second it.
seconded by Kate, and then questions or discussion. I guess is that about the amount that the annual increase that we anticipated? It seems higher than what I remembered.
This year, it's a little higher than anticipated. But the model year went up. So basically the MSRP on this new model has gone up. That's just, it's inflation. It's just like everything else. Everything else is up, 10 to 15%. Some things are up even more. So
it went up more because of the particular year.
it just went up more because of, basically we're down to, it's this whole supply and demand thing. Pickup trucks were 40,000, they're now 80,000, so.
It's not that bad.
We hit that. What's that?
It's not that bad.
This isn't that bad, no, so, but what they're also offering is on our trade-in, they've given us a trade-in price that is over what we actually paid, so. If you look at that number, that basically eats up where the model year has gone up $1,000, so.
Okay, so yeah, that knocks it down to like about 15,000, right?
Basically, so we're basically at the number that we had a year ago.
Question from Tim.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm sorry, Bobby, I just can't remember this. So have we committed ourselves to replacing a loader every year? Or is there any flexibility in terms of doing it, I don't know, every other year, every 3 years? I'm just wondering what the expectation is.
So we haven't fully committed ourselves to trading every year. If we want, we can wait 2 years and trade it, but you'll be looking at $36,000 to $40,000 rather than 18. So that was a question I asked to see if it was better to hold on for another year. And right now the answer is no.
They didn't think so.
No,
I think Danby did delay 1 year, right?
they tried it, yeah, they didn't make out as well as they'd like to, so they just got rid of theirs. They're back onto the 1 year rotation.
They're on a 1 year rotation. Yeah.
If you look at the 18,000 to rent that piece of equipment for a month is $4,500.
Which we don't want to do that.
Right, but I'm just putting it into perspective on the 18,000, so.
Right. No, I was just trying to, Bobby, I was just trying to, project ahead a little bit and trying to anticipate, if every year we're spending a significant amount upon a loader when we have a pretty brand new one, if that's going to delimit you to make other big equipment purchases. That's just what I was wondering about and thinking about.
Yeah, to do it this way actually makes it a lot easier to make other purchases because we're keeping this number, we're cutting that number in half by doing it yearly.
So if I understand it correctly, we can decide to do whatever we want at any time. Is that right?
Yeah, 3 years down the road, the prices are so high that we can't afford to trade it in, and we
We can just keep it.
that's why last year we actually bought a loader, so we own the loader free and clear right now. Which enabled us to trade it in at that lower dollar amount every year. And then we always have a brand new one, it's always under warranty.
Right. And I mean, we'll basically be purchasing the new one too, right?
The new one will still be ours, we're just paying the difference.
Yeah.
Between the two, so.
Okay, so we're paying it outright, and we wouldn't be paying interest then. We're buying this new one outright.
We're gonna buy this, we're gonna pay that difference outright, we're not financing the 18,000. if you look at it in terms of financing, to pay the 18,000 is a cheaper number than buying one and putting it on a finance program, so.
Okay, any other questions? If there are none others, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Done. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any comments on the August 10th minutes for Jesse? So, I read them over and nothing jumped out at me. So. All good?
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
So the minutes of August 10th, 2022 are hereby approved. And then, so agenda items for next week. I will be offering a FOIL policy, which is there's a model policy at the Committee on Open Governments. Talking with Jesse, it's something that we should have in place. So I'll be offering one based on that model next week. So, anything else for next week? But
Mark, can you just remind us of the budget cycle and when we'll start?
oh, thank you. That's a really good idea. So the budget cycle has started. The budget requests have gone out to departments. I need to have the first budget is called the tentative budget, which is confusing because I think for fire departments it's reversed. The first budget is called the preliminary budget. But anyway, the first one is due by the end of this month on the clerk's desk. So and then she actually presented to the town board at a meeting by October 5th, which is the date of our first meeting in October. So that's probably when that's going to happen. And then we will, that's basically that will be based on the input I've gotten from each of the departments, and it'll give us a starting point. Then we'll have our discussions and we'll probably schedule a couple of budget meetings and then try to have the next version approved, the preliminary budget in fairly short order. I hope. I always want to get this done earlier. It all has to be done by November 20th. And it seems like we always go right up to that date. So I'm hoping it'll be earlier this year, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so that's a really fast version of the budget process. Does that make sense, Tim, or any other questions?
Yeah, I was just remembering that we started just about now, so I just wanted to make sure we didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
board didn't have to do anything yet.
Yeah. So. Yep. That's our big task for this time of year. So.
Have we gotten any updates regarding the county internet study thing?
So yeah, I don't have any updates on it. As you might have noticed, I think you were at the meeting then, so TCOG formed a broadband committee to sort of follow this process. So Joel and I are like the co-chairs. We spoke about it today. And so we're going to be connecting with Nick Helmholt at the county I think we need to follow their process. They're going to be looking at the data for each of the towns, the coverage data for each of the towns. And comparing that to the state data that was recently completed. And then getting, having a consultant that advises them on the best solution forward. So, yeah, I kind of want to engage in that process. I'm still, I don't, you know, I'm still interested in a robust solution that really makes a foundational program or project for the town. You know, we'll be following Danby's effort to establish municipal broadband. So, yeah. And I'll mention in the Association of Towns newsletters, the just published newsletter, there's an article by Hunt Engineers that worked with Dryden on their project. It's about the Dryden project. It's a general article, but it's interesting. So I'm hoping we can engage with them as well. And I'll also mention that the AOT newsletter also has a nice, they do this every year, summary of the budget process that I just tried to describe briefly, but it has a very clear explanation of the town budgeting process, town and village budgeting process. So.
Yeah, so I mean, in relationship to this, I'd just like to remind us of the hanging ARPA fruit that we have to decide upon, and keep in mind the deadlines that we have for deciding what to do. As I recall, it's coming up this spring. Is that right?
I will check on that. I think we have more time than that, Tim, but I'll check on that for next week.
Yeah, I just think we should keep that, you know, keep it in this, keep it on the table, so we don't get caught by surprise.
Yeah.
Who's signing vouchers?
Jesse just asked who's signing vouchers. Does anybody know the answer to that?
I think it's you and me, Tim. isn't
I
it?
think so. I think so. I can sign vouchers, but I have a huge business conflict, and I don't think I'm going to be able to come to the meeting on Wednesday, but I think I can come in and sign the vouchers at some point.
Great, thank you. Anything else? If you think of something in the next couple days before the agenda goes out, let me know.
Mark, any updates on the town grounds? I know that Cal was working with you guys, PB Millers.
Yeah, so we had a good meeting last week. We had fun trying to figure out where water goes by running a hose into some of the drain tile. We never found. I talked to Barry, he said it doesn't go anywhere, it just goes into the gravel. So, but anyway, we did have a good meeting, and I think Steve Gibeon was going to provide a sort of an organized to-do list for addressing the water issues and the building repairs here. So maybe we'll have that by next week. So, yeah. Great. Anything else? Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I will offer a motion to adjourn,
I'll second it.
seconded by Kate. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. So the meeting is hereby adjourned at 7, looks like 40 or something like that. So 7:44. So great. All right. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.